Hey guys, how's it going? This is your friend and mine, Sam Smith. I am very excited to be joining you, and we're gonna hopefully answer some questions. We just launched a course last week, the Green Rider, and it's going great. I'm so excited. I love seeing the feedback from people. A lot of kids, a lot of grown-ups, some grown-ups and kids working on it together, and it's just really fun. If you haven't checked that out, you can look at the Green Rider. Let's see, I know it's sdsmith.com/the Green Rider. You can check that out. But I promised to answer some questions, and there was a post a week ago or so, or sometime this launch week, and I asked for some questions. So I got some. I printed some off. I'll try to look on the screen and maybe answer some of those as well. I'm doing live with Facebook and Instagram, and I did have a really fancy setup of this. Looks like Doc Ock from Spider-Man, but it broke about a minute ago. So I just have my phone leaning up there and my computer. So I'm trying to speak to both you on Instagram and you on Facebook at the same time. I hope it's not distracting. Okay, so let's jump right into the questions because apparently I know all kinds of answers. We'll see about that. We'll just see about that, Mr. SD Smith. Okay, so Terza asks, what is your plotting process, and do you have any tips for young writers? So the second part of that is, yeah, I've got lots of tips for young writers, and that's what the whole course is, the Green Writer course. So I won't dive into that too much. But the first part of the question, what is your plotting process? So for me, this is like a mixture. I'm not, there's the two poles. There's the outliners, and then there are the discovery writers. The outliners, as you can imagine, are sometimes described as architects. They're building something amazing, whatever. And the discovery writers are more like gardeners. They're letting things grow. They're shaping. And I would definitely probably lean a little bit more on the gardener side, even though in real life I'm allergic to everything on earth. My wife's a great gardener. But I kind of like that. I do plot out some things. So I do have some places where I'm plotting out. Like I think through some big moments. So big beats. So I'll plot out some beats. Like here's this has to happen, and then this will have to happen. And I'll write a little bit about it, like a little treatment of like a little moment. And then I'll kind of have something going on that. And there were a lot of questions about that kind of thing, like my process. But I do usually have kind of uh, a document or two that's sort of keeping track of where I am in the story and like what's going to happen next. So if I finish writing for the day, then I'll write myself a little. I just did it a little bit ago. I don't know if I'm done for the day, but I just wrote about 1,000 words on my next book, the next Green Ember book, Prince Lander and the Dragon War. And when I was done with my writing for that segment, at least maybe for the day, I just wrote myself some notes like, here's what needs to happen next. But then down further, I've got more notes like big kind of things. And I might have a whole new document on like the ending, and I keep adding to that and subtracting, that sort of thing. So I do have a little bit of organization, but I never outline. I never do a proper outline. But and even with my little beats that I'm sort of, making a place for, I'm never married to them. Like I'm always open to discovery. I always want to be open to discovery. I always want to say like, okay, if something happens, and it happens all the time, like a character just goes in a new direction or a character surprises me. I love that. That's one of my favorite parts of the discovery, the curiosity. I think I've mentioned it before, but some of my favorite characters, like Helmer from my series. Hey, where's Helmer? There you are. Oh, buddy, Helmer. He just showed up. Like he was just there at the Savory Den in the Green Ember, and I was like, "What's going on with this dude? What's his problem?" And so I started thinking about it. I got curious. Like, what's his history? Why is he like this? And so that as you know, if you've read my series, like he became a really important character, and actually most people's favorite character. And he totally happened because of this sort of openness to being alive and awake to the process. It's almost like sports. Like I don't know if some of you guys play sports, but I've always play sports. I love sports. And like for soccer, for instance, like you can go in with a great plan, like we're gonna neutralize this player and we're gonna attack up the wing, and but then like life happens, then the game happens, and the game is fluid. And I like to be awake and alive and ready to like, oh man, we've got to double down, we got to defend, we've got to do this, got to change our strategy. These guys are very physical, so we've got to whatever the approach is. So I want to be alive and in the moment, in the game. That's part of what being a green writer is, that you're alive. It's you're like a green living thing, not yet what you'll become, but you're also kind of alive and awake in the moment to what's going to happen. And so that's part of being a green writer, and that's part of my approach. Is I want to be alive and awake to what's happening. So I don't know where everybody's on that scale. And again, my system, who knows if it would work for you? Like my system may not work for you, probably won't. Like you got to kind of do it your way, and it's usually somewhere between those poles of like outliner or discovery writer. Some people call them pantsers because you're kind of writing by the seats of your pants, or a planner. But there's a lot of different acronyms. But basically, you've got those two poles, and everyone's usually somewhere in between them, and that's cool. Like you just got to find your place, figure out what works for you, and don't be afraid to try, and don't be afraid to fail, because that's like part of the whole thing. In sports, in life, in writing, it's all the same stuff. Like you got to kind of be comfortable being bad for a little while. That's also a part of the course, the Green Rider course, and it's true in life. Like you just got to get, you're never going to get better if you're not comfortable somewhat with being bad for a little while. So I recommend being bad for a while, and I recommend mostly like being alive to the process. Okay, so this is kind of related, but this is McCorkin. This is a question from Instagram. What is your writing routine? What ingredient in life do you need most to make it all happen? What is your writing routine? So for me, the best thing that works, like this morning, I can't. So I've got to have a little bit of a routine, especially in the morning. It's almost like the outline thing, like a little bit of an outline, a little bit of preparation, and then that's something to spring forth into a day or a writing day, with some, not being like totally just, oh, whatever happens. Like that doesn't usually work for human beings. Usually we have habits that sort of dictate, like we brush our teeth a certain way, we have a routine, and that's a really healthy thing when we have good habits. And if we don't have good habits, we usually have bad habits. Like oh gosh, who was the poet that said, I can't remember it. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue, that we first make our habits and then our habits make us. If I can think of it, I will find that for you. But yeah, if you're not making your habits, you still have habits. You're just having some default ones, and often those aren't the best. So I recommend having some kind of a routine. So for me, it's about like getting to the writing as soon as possible without a million distractions, without a million like don't get on social media, don't get on email, don't have a lot of interactions. Sometimes maybe like for a job or for life, you can't do that. Like you got to feed kids, you got to do this or that. And I've been through all those stages as well. But for me right now, it's like getting to the writing as soon as possible with as few decisions. Like if I already know what I'm going to have for breakfast, like I don't come down there and like, oh, what do I do? Like burning all kinds of imaginative energy and my brain power, which is extremely limited, to like figure out what am I going to eat this morning? What am I going to do? What's going to happen? Like if you got as much of that planned the morning before, because you have this thing called decision fatigue, and then you have something called attention residue. So if you're like read 5 emails, this is why you can't have the internet open and like, oh, I'm going to go check Facebook. Oh, I'm going to go check this. Oh, I'll check the news. I'll see it, while you're in the middle of writing, because you have this attention residue where you just can't. We think that we can flip from one thing to the other, that we can multitask and all that. And I think there's a lot of research. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but my experience is that we think that we can multitask. We think we can have a lot of things going on in our minds, but we really can't. There's a great book called Deep Work by Cal Newport, which is fantastic. And it's all about how like there's a certain way you get into this. If you look up the idea of flow, that something's difficult enough, but you have enough mastery where you get into this moment where there's flow happening and you have an opportunity to kind of get going. I always want to do that as a writer. I want to set myself up for as much success in that area as possible. It's the same thing with a sport. If you're playing a sport, or maybe anything, many other kinds of work, if you have to have enough competence to where you're able to perform, but you have to have enough of a challenge for it to like kind of raise your instincts, or your sort of like call you to great action. That's why I like writing difficult scenes or something. Like if there's something that's challenging to you or worrying, like, oh, I don't know how to write this action scene, like that's kind of good that it scares you a little bit. Like go into it, get after it. It's cool because it like that pressure produces a lot of cool things. Sometimes it's like failure, and that's not the worst thing. We got to get over this idea that like if we don't succeed at a particular kind of writing, or a particular or a day of writing, or a scene or something, that's like the end of the world. It's totally not. Like that is actually the way. That's not the obstacle. That is the way. That's the way to become a great writer. That's why I'm a green writer. I'm not a great writer. I think I'm good. A lot of G words here, but I think I want to be a green writer. That's I'm not waiting until things are perfect. I'm not waiting for permission until I'm no longer afraid. I've got a green light. That's a stop sign symbol, but I'm saying green light because I'm a communicator professionally. No, but you've got a green light. If you're a green writer, that's what I want. That's who I am. That's what I want you to be. I want to invite you into being is a green writer. So you've got a green light. Go. Stop not writing. Don't wait till it's perfect. Don't wait till you have permission. Someone says like, it's okay. I bless you. Now you are good enough. Go. Make mistakes. Live. Grow. And yeah, you're going and you're growing. You're not just yet what you will be. And that's what the Green Writer course is all about. And it is the answer to the question, like, do you have any advice for writers? So I would encourage you to check it out. Okay, so I am blabbing a lot with each of these questions. I don't know how many I'm going to get to. Really, a lot of these questions were really good, by the way. It was on a post, but maybe we'll do some more of this. So if you want, you can put questions in here if you want. From Ellie. Hi, Mr. Sam. Hi, Ellie. Hi, Ellie. Nice to see you. Thanks for watching. What a great name. Okay, so Nate Sanders asks, at what point or points in the writing process do you solicit feedback from others? At what point do you solicit feedback from others? So a lot of these are like questions about me and my writing process. So don't hear this and say like, this is what I should do because that bald guy in West Virginia does it. Therefore I should do it. That would be a dumb way to receive this. So, but just hear me out. This is what I do. I try to get a lot out from myself, like a draft, 2 drafts. That's sort of my thing, is like 2, like I'm writing, they say that writing is rewriting, and everybody again has their own rhythm on this. Everybody has their own way of doing it. Like you can be a person who kind of edits as you go. Most people shouldn't do that. Probably most people should just go write, and then come back and rewrite. I probably edit a little bit more as I go than most people. But because I do that, I only probably need to do like one more, like pretty good edit after that, catch a lot of things, and then I'm usually ready. Like after the second, maybe third draft, I'm usually ready to send it to at least a few people for a story edit. So I get a story. Like I'm not looking for like, oh, you misspelled everything, which I totally do. Probably literally including the word everything. But I sent out to people for a story, so then I'm trying to fix the story, and then it goes on down to more and more editors in the process for me, including beta readers who are like my favorite people in the world, because they find all kinds of mistakes and they notice things, often very encouraging as well. So that's kind of my process. It's not too long. But it's got to sit with me for a little while. But it's probably a couple 2 or 3 drafts before I'm sharing with other people for feedback. Yeah. Okay. There's other questions about feedback I think we'll get to. Would love to know, this is Krista Threlfall. Would love to know how you push through the fear aspect of creating, hearing other people's criticism and the criticism in your own mind. I just ignore it and I perfectly go about my business feeling nothing from the outside world. And that's not true. That is a lie. It's a lie, Stephen, a lie. So no, I don't do that. But here's the thing. If you empower, so here's the principle. Empower coaches, not critics. Okay? Empower advocates, not accusers. So what does that mean? When someone's your coach, like when they're on your team, then their feedback is all about helping you achieve. You're both on the same team trying to achieve the same goal. An accuser or a critic, a harsh critic, is a non-constructive critic. Is their goal is to try to tear you up, tear you down, not build you up. Tear you up, build you down. Are they trying to build you down? Is that what's going on here? If they do, that's a warning flag right there. Don't let anyone build you down. So if you're on the same team as somebody, that's a coach, that's an advocate, that's someone who's on your team. So empowering those people to speak into your life is gold. It's absolutely essential. It's so important. Now, they may not have the right information. Often I find that early readers are right about that something is wrong, but they're often wrong about what would make it right. I don't know if that makes sense, but they point out parts of the and this isn't original with me. I think Orson Scott Card's talked about this. I think I've heard Brandon Sanderson maybe talk about this. Those guys from Utah. So often write about that there's something wrong in the manuscript. And Orson Scott Card describes it as like a what? Like you have a gut reaction. They have a gut reaction like, what? Wait, huh? And it's kind of just a moment in the manuscript that makes them pause, that makes them go like, huh? Maybe like, I don't believe that, or what, or I'm confused. So they're right in identifying those moments. They're not often right about like, sometimes people are like, I think the characters are too thin, or some kind of hoity-toity feedback, and I just don't know if that's true. I think what's real is, oh, by the way, before I mention anything, don't do any spoilers in the comments. Like, why did you kill this person? Something like that. Please don't do that, because some people might be reading who haven't read the books, and so just keep it spoiler free if you could. I should have said that earlier. But I think the main thing is you're trying to empower people who are on your team, and you're trying to and you really need to cut out and ignore everybody else as much as possible. So coaches, advocates, yes. Critics, accusers, no. Like that's not what you need. So I hope that's helpful. I think but I'll just say that it also takes time, and it can be painful. Even someone as brilliant as J.R.R. Tolkien, before the Lord of the Rings came out, he wrote to a friend, I'm dreading the publication because I've opened my heart to be shot at. And so I mean, if you feel that way, like so did some really great, some other really great writers. So you're not alone. And that's totally cool. So just bear with yourself. Give yourself patience. Again, I think it's so important that you go as a writer. That's what I'm a green writer. I'm going. I've got a green light. I'm not waiting for permission. I'm not waiting until I'm no longer afraid. I'm not waiting until all the critics are lined up to say, you're the best. No, I'm going and I'm growing. So I'm not yet what I'm going to become. So if you say, hey, you're kind of weak in this area, I don't have to say like, oh, what? Don't say that about me. I can say, oh, okay. All right. I hear you. Okay. I'm getting better though. I'm going to grow. That's actually a good note. Thank you. Because if it's just about my ego, if it's just about me, like, oh, I've got to swell my head and I've got to become the greatest writer in the history of the world, or just have people fawning all over me, like, then that's a different goal than, hey, let's write something that is good for other people, that serves people, that is loving, that gives people a gift. Like if that's our goal, then the people who are helping us get better are on our team, and not just because they said that something about us that's not like perfectly flattering or something doesn't mean they're against us, that they're our enemies. So I think that's important. That's that whole thing. But it's hard. I'll just acknowledge it's hard, and it takes opportunity to grow and get better and to experience growth in it. Great question. Okay, let's see here. Okay, this is a creative bee asks, how do you stick with and see through one story? I have so many started. So Creative Bee says, how do you stick with and see through one story? I have so many started. And that is like a super common thing for people to have, like a, because honestly, it's kind of easy to start a story. It's like, that's a fun part, is like, oh, I'm going to begin. It's got all the promise in the world, not a lot of hard work yet. And so it's very tempting. It's very like alluring. I'll start the story. It'll be great. And I'll do that. So I'll just recommend. So that's the easy thing. Okay, that's the easy thing to do, is to start. But it's hard to kind of keep going through, and that's actually part of what the course is about too. Is it's about going and growing, and it's that whole process. It's got a part about beginnings, about middles, about ends, about what to do as you kind of keep going. So I feel like that's super important, to carry on, to keep going. And basically the answer to me is you just have to say no. Like you have to say no. It's kind of like being faithful to a spouse, or being faithful to a team, or something like that. Like if you're the kind of person that's like, oh, that team's winning, I'm rooting for them now. And oh, that team's winning now, I'm rooting for them. Then like you're never going to experience the kind of joy that a person who sticks with a team experiences when they win the championship, or something like that, or have any kind of success. You're just like, yes, I've been there all along. And the same thing with a spouse. Like if you're just running around, whatever, that's like there's a kind of joy that's impossible, even though it's often in a pursuit of a joy. But it's a petty, it's a lower, baser kind of joy. And it doesn't last. It's not the same thing. So anyway, I'm just saying that got a little bit deeper than I intended. But the point is, you got to stick with your story. You got to stick with one story. And here's the solution, in my opinion. Quit trying to write the longest book in history. Quit trying to write a 17-part space saga. Write a short story. Do a beginning, do the middle, do the end, write the end, and then start another one. Don't keep writing really, really long things that you're never going to finish. Get to the end of something. Make it shorter. Make it better. And then grow and grow and grow. And don't, ignore the tendency to want to like plan out everything, research everything, make this perfect kind of thing. Make an imperfect story. Write it. Write the end, keep going. I think that's probably the best thing to kind of get some momentum, because there are lots of starters out there. There are very few finishers. When you start writing the end on stories, you're in a whole new world, a small company of people who are really going and growing as writers. So that would be my advice. And here's the thing you can do. Here's what I'll allow. If you're tempted, like, oh, I want to go work on this other story, because this actually, what's happening is you're getting to like a hard part, like the part that everybody quits at. So it's like, I'm not really quitting. I'm just going to work on my other story. No. Here's what you can do. If you have a really cool idea for another story, go write a few ideas down. Write the ideas down, do that kind of thing. But don't quit writing your story and go start writing another story. Give yourself, that's what I do, honestly, because that happens to me exactly what you're describing. Like I get like another idea. Oh, that sounds exciting. I'll go work on. And what I do is I go write a few notes down, then I come back to my story. I think that's what you got to do. At least that's what I do. But that's a good question, and that's a tough thing to deal with. All right, just a few more. Okay, I already really answered that question. Okay. L. Aaron Ford Cyber. Do you write with an end in mind or allow the events to develop organically? Do you write with the end in mind or to allow the events to develop organically? Now, I've already talked a little bit about that earlier, and if you're just joining us late, you can maybe catch the beginning of the video. I'm going to try to save it if I'm able to. I'm able to crack that technological nut. We shall see. So I do this thing, and this is in the course too, but I do this thing with there is always like begin with the end in mind. That's really powerful, really smart. There's a time travel trick. I have this time travel trick, and I talk about it in the course, but basically, like, when you get to the end of the manuscript, it's not over. Like, you can, if you want your ending to be sweeter, if you want your ending to get better, then, make it better. And how do you make it better? You can go back and seed the whole story. With things that sweeten that ending. I'm a big fan of that. So I call that the time travel trick. You just like go back in time in the manuscript and make it so that ending just stands out even more. And there, you can probably think of a million ways to do that. And that is a cool trick, because until it's published, till it's shared with other people, like, the story's still going. It's still alive. It's still ready to be. It can still be changed and molded. So that's something I do to try to make my endings pop. But I usually, at some point fairly early on in the process, I want to have some kind of an ending idea, and that just comes more and more into focus. So like I said earlier, I do have usually like another document that's like all about the end, and I just keep adding notes to it, and so as I'm going. But I'm not finished with the end, and I'm not finished with the beginning until I'm done with the whole thing and can go back and edit it and add in things that make the ending more satisfying. Okay, maybe just a couple more. Court Sermon from Instagram asks, is this writing course for kids or adults? Just curious. So the writing course, the Green Writer, is for aspiring authors of all ages who are interested in going and growing. So I've intentionally not said it's just for kids, because it's not just for kids. It's not. It's just things that I need to hear. I need to hear this, and maybe you do too. It's basic in a sense, because it's like fundamental stuff. It's like a little bit of identity stuff and a little bit of craft stuff to get you going. So it's maybe not for the person who's written 50 novels and published, maybe not. But it's maybe more toward the earlier part of your career. So that happens to be a lot of young people, but it's not specifically just for young people. It's kind of like my books, which are sort of aimed at young people, but sort of like aimed at anybody who likes good stories. Think about Pixar adventures or Star Wars. Like, what's the age group for that? I don't know. Like, I think you kind of get everybody, and that's what this is for. And this course is not for everybody, but it is for a certain kind of person of all ages. That's aspiring authors who want to go and grow as writers, who need a little bit of a kick, who need a little bit of inspiration. Let's get going. A little bit of fire, but also a little bit of information. So it's like formation, inspiration, both together. Hopefully, that's the goal. And you can check that out. What is the website? Greenwriter. sdsmith.com/greenwriter. Hopefully that is helpful. Okay. How much do you allow others to critique your work or vision? That's from David Helmer. Wow. David Helmer. What a cool name. How much do you allow others to critique your work or vision? I can't stop them from doing it. So I'm not super sensitive. How much, I know the point is like, how much do I allow into my heart, my life? And I mean, that's probably a curated process. There's people who have my trust who I want to be able to do that. And so it's a small group probably. I think I used to empower my critics a lot more, or accusers. I would give them a lot more say in my life, as in I would feel devastated a little more when people were very critical, especially early on. I had some pretty hurtful feedback from people that I respected and had placed a lot of value in. So that happened, but I also had the opposite of that, and people that I trusted and valued their opinion, who were just like big believers. And if you think you're the first person that experienced that, you're not. We've all experienced it. I mean, C.S. Lewis, even with the Chronicles of Narnia, some of the best books ever written. His friend, his dear friend, whom he had encouraged like crazy, writing The Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien, his friend, he hated the book. He hated The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. And he said so. He was very discouraging to Lewis. And people like Roger Lancelyn Green, also a wonderful author, came to Lewis and said, you've got to publish it. This is fantastic. So there's going to be Roger Greens in your life. There's going to be Tolkien's in your life. And you got to figure out, like, is Tolkien right? Is Roger Green right? And that's the tough part. But in the end, it's got to be you. You've got to decide. I think this is a valuable gift, this thing I'm working on. And I am excited to give it to someone, to share it with someone. Because it's not just about, there's the whole write what you know. But I talk about this in the course, but I'm a believer in write for who you know, write specifically for people that you know and love. I think that's a good way to find your best writing and to find your most generous, hospitable work. That's kind of my heart, is I want to be a hospitable, generous writer. That's my goal. Okay. I am going to look at some questions, see if there's any questions on here that I can answer real quick from the live people. They're going to add any more books in the Green Ember series. Hey, Kittens and Crafts. I am going to do that. Lord willing, I'm working on the 10th book in the Green Ember series right now, called Prince Lander and the Dragon War. And I'm really enjoying it. It's pretty awesome. And so I don't know when that'll come out, but I'm excited. Okay, let's see. The eagle's eggs were a lie, Stephen. A lie! What inspired me to write my stories? That was my kids. And telling them stories that as a kid. No, it wasn't Marcus Aurelius. It was somebody else. Well, this is the tedious part where I go through and look for questions and comments. So I am going to stop that right now. I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Let's do another one of these. This is pretty cool, pretty fun. And just, keep those questions coming, and I will be delighted to interact with you. I hope you'll check out the course. I know this is sounds kind of salesy, but truth is I'm not ashamed of that, because I believe in what the course offers. I think it's wonderful. I think it's a gift. It's something I wish I had. It's a golden rule kind of a thing, do unto others. Like, lots of people have asked me for advice on writing. Like, I worked very hard to put that together to answer that question. So I hope you'll enjoy it. It's sdsmith.com/greenwriter. And I think that it would be, I hope it'd be valuable to you. I hope you give it a try. There's some free sessions on there, so you can check those out just for free and just see if you think it'd be valuable. I think it might be. Okay, God bless you. Thanks for this. Have a wonderful day. Instagram, I don't know how to end this. So it's going a little bit longer than the other one did. But I still don't know how to end it. So we might be here a long time. This might be for the rest of our lives. We better get used to it. And I'm not ending this one either, so that must have seemed pretty weird. I'm glad I didn't stop or do something weirder. Goodbye to you.